Hey everybody, welcome to part one of how to navigate uncertainty during a major crisis. I hope you enjoy. This is David Nagel. I'd like to welcome you to how to navigate uncertainty during a major crisis. The first thing that I'd like to do is thank everybody for participating. I hope everybody is well. If this crisis has personally touched anybody in your life, our condolences. We're sorry to hear that, but we hope that you will be well, and that all your families are well. I decided to do this 4-part series in succession, so it'll be today, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We're going to do an hour of teaching, and then we're going to do a half an hour of Q&A. And then I've got some exciting news for everybody on Sunday also, providing that we're still in the situation that we're in. But what I really want to start off with today is giving everybody a lay of the land, because it's been a week now. It's been 1 week since I've been seriously involved in what's been actually going on. I don't think anybody, or at least very, very few people, really could comprehend that our world, let alone our country, would be in the situation that it's in right now. And because of that, people are experiencing a wide range of emotional response to this, and also behavioral response. I mean, let's face it. So it runs the gamut. It's between two poles of really, really good and really, really bad. So I want you all to know that I'm speaking to all of you as a group, but I'm also being very conscious, we're trying to be very conscious of how I speak to you, because I'm trying to hit everybody with their own individual experience, if that's possible. So please know that I'm doing my best to do that. The biggest problem that we have that's going on right now that is far more dangerous than any virus could possibly be is fear and panic in some cases. It's very important as a community that we communicate with one another about our fears, and we help everybody resolve their fears, which I'm going to go into in quite some depth, that I think that will benefit everybody on this call greatly, and help prevent people from panicking. If you're a person that's listening to this right now and you're doing really well during this crisis, the best thing that you could do is find somebody else to help, because there's a lot of people that aren't doing very well, and they need some kind of consolation. They need somebody to help them think through what's actually going on, which is the second thing I want to address. But understand this with fear, because I think this is very important. Number one, fear is neither good nor bad. It just is. And it really determines how we use it, whether or not it's productive or destructive in our life. So the fear actually runs and uses the same pathway in the brain as courage. So it's pretty fair to say that fear used in a productive way actually is courage. That's what we're experiencing as courage. It's the opposite side of the same thing. So it's important to know that, because we all have the ability to flip from fear to courage, to flip from being non-productive to being productive, if we understand what's actually happening factually. And I think that is what's causing the biggest problem right now. So we have a couple of scenarios going on. We all know from a factual perspective that we have a global pandemic with this virus, and that it's basically affecting everybody in one way or another. There's multiple ways people are being affected. They're being affected by it right from the virus itself, all the way through to a person who is as far distanced from it as they could possibly be, but through the channels of distribution or financial agency, they're being affected that way. And then, of course, we all know people that are having a rough time with what's going on. So this is something that's going to affect everybody, and it's going to affect them one way or another, and it may be at one time or another. So for some people, they might be experiencing a lot of discomfort now. Some people may not, and yet they may experience it later. It all depends on a person's personal individual situation. So when we're talking about fear, I think that it's important to understand why a person would be in such fear at this point of the juncture. The reason is this: not only could most of us not imagine something like this happening, as a society, as a people, we've never experienced it before. The way that the brain works is that it works based on pattern recognition, meaning that from when we're born, from when we're conceived, we basically start to set up patterns of behavior, patterns of understanding, patterns of response, um, and our senses are constantly scanning the world around us, and our brain tells us how to respond or react to everything that we're experiencing. Well, most people continue to experience much of the same thing their whole life. What we've been thrust into is a pattern that nobody recognizes because nobody has experience with this. Uh, even the most prepared people for crisis have never experienced this. This is completely brand new. So we don't have the pattern recognition to automatically adapt to it in the moment without consciously thinking through it. This is why the facts are so very important. And right now, there's everything from people using this to their own advantage, whether it's politically or financially, down to, well, let me just talk about that for a second. So I think it's pretty disgusting that people are doing it for those two reasons. This is a time for the world to pull together so that we can all help each other through something. So people that are actually taking advantage of that situation, it's really bad. I would personally, if I was you, I would completely ignore that, and don't listen to it. Get it out of your head, get it out of your mind, get it out of your life. All we're concerned with during this crisis is what the facts are, so we can bring a sense of control back, and we can actually bring a sense of sound decision making so that we can get to the other side of this and then rebuild better than before, once it's actually over. So here's the deal. What has actually happened? If we understand, like there's people on this call from all over the world, but if we use, because I'm in the US, I'm going to use the United States as a metaphor. When we elect a president in the United States, that president takes an oath basically to protect the Constitution of the United States. And the main function of the Constitution is to keep and hold in place a free society. Why a free society? So that everybody can basically design their own life without judgment or persecution from an unhealthy government or an unhealthy people or a dictator or something like that. That's really the kind of the gist of it. But what's happened now that has never happened before is the freedom of those choices in so many ways has been instantly stopped for most people and for all the free countries around the world, basically for everybody in one way or another. It's been stopped. And the channels of distribution that we normally live on, we think on those channels, we base our life on those channels. It's how our basic necessities get to us. It's how our money comes to us. For most people, those have been stopped. They're really only open for channels of distribution that are urgent during a time of crisis, meaning hospitals, food, military, police, government. Only the channels that need to be open right now are open. People that keep our power on, that type of stuff. Anything that it's not needed either already has stopped or it will be stopped temporarily. And it's important to know that, because when our free agency is taken away from us, when we don't have the ability to choose in what we would call a normal world that we're used to, the problem that we're facing is an extreme amount of unknown hitting us consciously all at one time. And it becomes an overload in our brain for most individuals. And then that's where they go into fear, because the mind doesn't have the ability to perceive. It doesn't like the unknown. Let's put it that way. it really deplores the unknown. So it doesn't have a pattern of recognized behavior to fall back on to say, okay, you know what? I recognize this. I know what to do. I'm going to be okay. Basically, every hour of every day for the last week, this has been changing rapidly. And we all have been observing it. So without really understanding the facts, we go into a couple of different places. And I was on a call before this with a good friend of mine. I was talking with his folks that are mostly up in Canada, and I was explaining that the interesting thing that we are looking at here is that if we could use the metaphor of the free world just became like a communist country, because the government had to step in and say, you can't do what you normally do. Your jobs have been, we've had to push pause on your jobs. And that's really kind of the way, as I go through these few days, I want you to really think about our situation as a pause in life. It's not a permanent, it's a pause. Okay. So I think it really helps when we understand that it's a pause, so we can think within the parameters of the pause, and our mind does not go out and shoot off into eternity with I call it making the death jump. Like, people can't see the bottom and they don't know where this is going. So they make the jump to death, because death becomes the only thing that we feel that we can control in the moment. But actually, there's a lot more that we can control before we hit death. So don't make the death jump in your own life. It's very destructive, and it's also a delusion in a way. And here's the reason why. When there's this much uncertainty, you have people that go to different ends of the spectrum. I'm really very surprised at the amount of people that I'm seeing and observing, and sometimes even talking to, that are in complete denial about what's actually going on right now. They refuse to believe that it's true on some cases. Some people don't even think that there's a virus, that the whole thing is a damn hoax. Some people don't believe the government. Some people don't believe the seriousness of what's going on. They think that our country and all the other countries are overreacting. So they're in denial about the facts. Now, you might ask yourself, because some of you people may be dealing with this in your own family, people that are in denial. You have people that are very educated, that you love, and they're in complete denial about what's actually going on. And you might be thinking to yourself, how do I deal with those individuals? I'm going to tell you that right now. The reason somebody goes into denial is because they need an extraordinary ability to control things in their life. And when that ability is taken away from them, or they perceive that that ability is taken away from them, what ends up happening is they collapse what they're perceiving down to a level of understanding that they can understand. So when we see somebody in denial, they're actually in self-preservation. Psychologically, that's all they can understand at this moment. So when we have somebody in denial, one of the things that we do is we assure them that they're safe. Very often, these people don't want to admit that they're scared. And in some cases, they don't even know that they're scared, because this is how they kind of go through times of crisis in their life. And this is like the biggest time of crisis that we've ever seen. So that's what they're doing. They're actually in self-preservation, and we want to walk them out slowly. And then the way that we walk them out is by helping them understand and return their own personal agency, meaning their ability to make a decision, their ability to feel the power of making their own choice, and showing them how to do that by really understanding the facts. Because the worst thing for a person in denial is they start making decisions that are neurotic in nature or hysterical in nature, and it causes worse problems in their life, which it always does, because this is like the biggest domino effect that we're ever going to see. And I'll get into that in a minute too. And then it causes more denial. And it causes more panic. So it's really about, this is why everybody on this call needs to be very, very concerned with the facts. That's all you want to pay attention to, the facts, and we make decisions based on the facts, not the what ifs. If we hear the government saying what ifs, they're what ifs. Take them as what if. That's what the fact is. It's a what if. It's not a fact. I know today they were talking about with the FDA that they have some very promising drugs coming down the pike. Right now, it's a what if. It's not a fact. We can use it energetically to hope and set our intentions for for us and every other country on the planet that is going to be a fact soon, and that we'll be out of this really soon. That's a productive way to think about it. But we really also want to understand and not go into judgment around people that are in denial. Now, on the opposite side of that, on the far other side, we have people that are totally melting down and going into catastrophic thinking. So when Stephanie Tuss, who's my CEO of operations, and when we co-teach something or we are co-coaching someone, one of the things that we do is we talk about all or nothing thinking. And all or nothing thinking is a process, actually a technique. It's not a productive one, but it is a technique that people use to control their situation in life, because it makes them have some sense of control over it. It gets rid of the fogginess in the middle where they don't know what's going on. But if they could paint the picture of the worst scenario, or they could paint the picture of the best scenario, they think they could figure out how to navigate that. They have the psychological or emotional tools or skill set to be able to deal with it. But in the middle where it's murky and foggy, they don't have that. So that's why a person would go into all or nothing thinking. And some people are in catastrophic thinking right now. And this is, there's people that are openly saying all over the internet that it's the end of the world. Like, I don't believe that it's the end of the world. I don't think it's anything close to the end of the world. I think that this virus happened by cause and effect, the same laws of the universe that I teach all the time. And it's just a different situation. I mean, that's all it is. It's a cause that got out of control. The reason it got out of control, by the way, is not important right now. What's important is that we get through it, and then we let the powers it be deal with the reason afterward. I think that's very important from a triage perspective, that we view it that way, because one of the other things that this causes, and by the way, this is also a way a person helps maintain their level of control, is to go into blame. They want to blame, point, accuse, judge, and crucify what they believe to be the cause is. Whether they're right or wrong really doesn't matter, because it's all a matter of perspective anyway. But they want to do that, and they may have no factual evidence to back it up. It's all hearsay. It's all conjecture, but they do it because it helps them feel in control. And if they can blame, they don't have to pay attention to their own vulnerability. They don't have to figure out their own life. They can use it as a scapegoat for what they're not willing to face in their life right now. And it's not productive in any way. It's not productive in any way or in any circumstance to blame. This is all about how we get through this, pause, is all about how we take personal responsibility for ourselves. So understanding more and more the truth about what's happened allows us to take more and more responsibility. So while all of the normal channels in our life, or most of them, I should say, not all, and of course, this is one of those things, like, it all depends on your own personal situation or perspective. But how we, at the level that our choice has been taken away, we have to understand what it's really done is it's taken the world that we know and it's made it a little bit smaller. That's all it's really done. So when we think about cause and effect, and we think about decisions, and we think about choice, we have to remind ourselves we're not dealing with the world that we know. We're dealing with a world that we don't know. It has a new set of rules. It has a new set of facts. It has a new set of evaluations. It has a new set of cause and effect. And we have to take all of this into consideration when we're making choices, because we're making choices on something that is consistently changing every single day. And our world has kind of been really reduced. Well, for most people, if you're practicing isolation, it's reduced down to your home or wherever it is that you're living. But even if you're not, it really has done that for basically for everybody. And for those that it hasn't yet, it will very soon. So we have to think inside of that psychological structure that's been presented for everybody, so that we really understand what are the facts of this situation and how do we make decisions based on these facts, so that we know that we're going to be okay. Because I believe everybody's going to be okay as long as they understand how things have changed and what the facts are. And then How do we put ourselves in a position so we're in a good position to rebuild afterwards? Most of the people that will find themselves in a bad position to rebuild after this are people that are not looking at the facts and making sound logical decisions based on those facts. And here's something really to be grateful for, though. Can you imagine if this happened 40 years ago and we didn't have computers or the internet or cell phones? I mean, we'd all be reduced down to a landline, and the communication would be absolutely horrid. So it's really something to be grateful that from a technological standpoint, we're all able to communicate with each other and for the most part see each other every day and get a lot of good information and really make the choice of ignoring the bad information. I think that is so very important to understand, to recognize, to be grateful for, and to use so that we can all benefit from this. What is one of the biggest gifts of that is that if you need help, you can reach out to people relatively easily to get help, even if it's somebody that you don't know. People are being very generous. I like to think that most of the world is in a very generous state, and people are coming together to help everybody. And I think that's a really great thing. It also helps if we think every day about how can we help someone. Even if it's just saying hello or checking in on somebody, it's very important. Okay, so I was getting off track there a little bit. Let me get back on track. So what we're dealing with is kind of like a house of cards. So what I want to do is I want to give you a framework to think about this and help understand what's happening. So it's really kind of like a house of cards, meaning that when a house of cards falls, it usually collapses from the bottom up. And it is a domino effect too. So when one thing falls, it causes something else to fall, something else to fall. And what's happening now is exactly that. The government has made decisions that certain businesses have to close, which is causing people to be laid off, out of work. Usually, not in all cases, but in a lot of cases, these are individuals that are living very close to paycheck, and they're in need immediately for economic relief, which I hope that's going to be taken care of really quickly. However, we have to think of something for all of you that are on here that are business owners like I am. Unless you have a business that actually works in the sector that helps people in this moment, in this crisis, I have a very strong recommendation that if you don't actually try to sell your way through this, but you actually push pause on your business. And I'm going to explain why. Because here's what it looks like. You have your clients, and your clients make money off of their clients or wherever they work. And it just continues to go down and down and down. As it collapses from the bottom, what ends up happening is that at some point it reaches your clients' clients where their money is coming from. And those people are told that they can't pay them. And then they call you and they tell you that they can't pay you. So that's how it kind of gets shuffled up to the top. The stock market is something completely different, but that's how this is actually working. So we'll find that as the days go by, the urgency for financial relief gets higher and higher and higher up the food chain, so to speak, up that hierarchy of how people actually earn money. And the longer it goes, the more of a chance it has to go all the way to the very top of this. The people at the top should be coming around and helping the people at the bottom the best that they can. But we can all do that. So if we understand that, then we can understand, okay, if I'm coming from a place of I have to make money, how am I going to make money? How are we going to keep the doors open? If we get into that frenetic energy around this, we end up making poor decisions because it's coming from fear. And it's not coming from thinking our way through this. So what I'm recommending for people that are coming from that place is that you ask yourself that very critical question. And the question again is my business or my service directly related to what people need right now? Just because it was 2 weeks ago does not mean that it is now. If it is, great, you're fine. Go for it. Do your thing. If it isn't, my suggestion is that a person push pause, because you're going to have a very difficult time selling if people can't even think about the concept of buying what it is that you have to offer, because they're too worried about their own personal life in the moment. And the sale that you make is not going to necessarily benefit them during the crisis. But the question is this: so what does every individual do? It doesn't matter where you are. Because I'm getting so many questions about the people are in fear that they're going to run out of money and that type of thing. And also that's what causes a lot of the bizarre behavior that we're actually seeing out there. So the idea really looks like this: that we understand that it is a pause, that we understand that it's a house of cards. Now, I have been telling people for years, like 15 years, there is no such thing as safety. And this is one of the very difficult truths that everybody is going to learn from this. The problem is, are you going to be conscious of it or not? Because if you're conscious of it, it can do everybody a world of good right now. So for years, I've been telling people that the idea that we have in our mind, whatever an individual's idea is of safety, it's probably very incorrect. It's probably based on a lot of magical thinking and things that are not really true. Because I told them that the society that we live in is actually very fragile. The health care of us as an individual, us as a society, is actually very fragile. And anything could happen at any time, and it throws that off, and you're not safe anymore. Plus, anything can happen to any person at any time, financially, health-wise, with loved ones, and you experience something in life that you don't actually want to experience. So what is safety? Safety basically is our ability to have the ability to make free choices over our life. So based on the law of cause and effect, so that we can take care of ourselves, we can take care of our families, we can take care of our businesses if you have a business. And when that's taken away, a person feels very unsafe because they recognize that they don't have the ability to make the same choices and produce the same effects in their life. And their brain keeps trying to go back to the way things were a couple of weeks ago and make choices in that place. They're not allowing the new structure of the way everything is to come into view so that they can make new choices. Because this does not have to be a catastrophe. It can totally be just a pause. Now, is it fun? Probably not for most people. It's not fun. It's probably not something anybody really wanted to have to go through. But again, the fear that kind of thinking creates, if we stay dwelling on it, it makes a big difference. And here's the reason why. When we experience any emotion in our body, one of the most important things we have to understand is what's causing that emotion. We think that the virus, the government shutting everything down, the fact that we have to stay home, the fact that we have to socially distance, the fact that maybe your business has come to a grinding halt, or the business you were working for come to a grinding halt and you're not being paid or whatever, that's actually causing the fear. It's not causing the fear. And it's so important to know that fact, that it's not causing the fear, because if you understand that it's not causing the fear and what actually is causing the fear, you can change it very rapidly. What's causing the fear is your unconscious mind giving everything that you're observing right now in our world meaning that's not accurate. Now, let me say that again. Your unconscious mind is giving everything that we're observing in the world meaning that's not accurate. Whenever we give things meaning, and that's what human beings do, remember this, nothing has any meaning in and of itself. Human beings have assigned meaning to every object and non-object in the physical universe, okay? And even beyond the physical universe. I mean, that's why we talk about like spirit and energy and, stuff like that, right? You're going beyond, you're going into the metaphysical world, or you're going into into physics, and you're giving things that we can't see in the physical world meaning. So it's very important to know this, because everything that's going on, you immediately want to attach meaning to it, because meaning gives you a sense of control. But if you give it the wrong meaning, your emotional self has the wrong response. And it will generate, and because a lot of the meaning means that it just verifies that you're not in control, It verifies that you're in a heightened state of vulnerability, and that everything is in a heightened state of vulnerability. Then we start to experience emotions that are not good. So we end up with anger, we end up with sadness, we end up with fear and anxiety and worry and doubt and mistrust, and then all of that gets channeled into things like blame and then poor misbehavior. So we need to be very careful of that. So what's the idea? The idea then is that if we understand the facts and we understand what we're going through, we can give it a different meaning. And if we can give it a different meaning, we can experience instantaneously, like bam, right now, we can experience a completely different emotion. So here's what I want to do just for a minute here. If everybody that's listening to this, if you can find one thing in your life right now that you're grateful for, maybe it's your spouse or a lover or a child or your family or your health, something. Think about one thing right now for a moment that you can be grateful for. And if you just focus in on that gratitude, you'll find that it does something pretty amazing. It allows your heart to open up. It allows your emotional center to begin to open up. As you feel the gratitude, you can move that gratitude around your body. But if you then turn on the news and you watch the number of the virus going up and the death count going up, you shut the gratitude off and you go back into fear, because your brain is trying to relate those numbers to what does that mean for you. And it can't actually come up with a logical meaning for you unless you think through it and give it one. It automatically goes to some kind of catastrophic meaning for you, which just puts you back in fear. So this is a time where, as human beings in the world, on the planet, have to give great consciousness to the meaning that we're giving this, so that we can not only help ourselves, but we can help our brothers and sisters go through this at the same time. So it's very important to know that the meaning that you're attaching to anything right now, if it's not productive, it will not show up in a productive way inside of yourself or with anybody else. It's actually very damaging. And keep this in mind, everyone. Right now, so there's two, let me just back up for a second. Let me say this. There's two ways that our subconscious mind gets programmed. One is through constant spaced repetition, and the other one is through a sudden emotional impact. Right now, we're getting both. Like if you're watching the news, you're getting both. You're getting constant repetition of basically the same message over and over and over and over again. And that message is highly emotional for most people. So what ends up happening is we become so fascinated with the terror, the awe of what we're experiencing, that those messages go right into your subconscious mind. And the second they go into your subconscious mind, they begin to manifest in your physical body. And usually at first it's doubt, fear, and worry. It's just like, boom, it's that fast. It starts to manifest in the body. But the problem is that if it becomes lodged in your subconscious mind, then we move into things like PTSD when something like this is over. So we have conscious control over what we allow in our mind. And yes, we have to use various different things to get facts from, whether it's the news, or we're going to the website for the CDC, or we're going to our local government, or we're looking at whatever is important to us. We have to use modes of technology to get information, and I think that's important. But I think it's also important to make sure that we stay out of the rhetoric, we stay out of the rumors, and we really understand what's happening. And here, you have to understand that in every moment of every day, you have a choice. You have a choice. All of your choice has not been taken away. It's the way that we make choice that has changed. But your choice wasn't actually taken away. The way that we make choices is what's been changed. Okay. So know that. And that allows you to give things the correct meaning, have the sound mind, all of that stuff. Now, let's put this in perspective and talk about why this is as crazy as it actually seems to be. So I want you to think about something. Because one of the things that I want to help people understand that are in the place of that they're not really getting this, the urgency of what's going on. I want to see if I can explain this in a way where everybody that's on this call understands it, in a way that you could help other people that don't understand it understand it. So I'm going to give you some numbers of people that die every day in various different ways. So I want you to just sit back and listen to this and know that this is every day. And you can check yourself. You can go to the World Health Organization and various other sites that are credible on the internet. You can look these numbers up. I've triple checked these numbers, and with only the slightest variation do they vary, and it's very slight. So 337 people worldwide die every day in fires. 1,418 die every day of the flu. 3,792 every day die in car accidents. 7,671 every day die of obesity. 25,000 people die from hunger every day. That's 9.1 million people per year. 25,000 people die from hunger every day in the world. And 47,397 people a day die from heart disease. Now, you don't see, I know that that's not uplifting, right? But you don't see the world going into a panic over these numbers. And these numbers are far more catastrophic than anything that we're currently experiencing right now. And it's very interesting because unless one of the things that I read touches your life personally, most of the time we don't hear about it. We don't hear about anybody doing anything about it. It's not something that causes global attention like we have right now. The seriousness of what we're facing right now has basically to do with a health system that can't keep up if the virus actually peaks with too many people at the same time. And it overloads the health system. And then you have people that are suffering or dying in hallways or streets or sent back home, that type of thing. That's the kind of thing that happened in China. It's the kind of thing that's currently happening in Italy and some other places, but everybody's trying to get ahead of that, right? So that's why we hear so much about being ahead of the curve, flattening the curve. We're hearing all that stuff because it's that peak that has got everybody so concerned. And that's what's causing the decision to have everybody isolate. It's not actually about getting it as much as it is about the idea that too many people would get it at one time. We don't socially distance from the flu, and far more people from the flu die every year than this, and that's been going on for a long time. We don't see the whole world coming to a halt when 25,000 people a day die from hunger, although you would think that we would, but basically we don't. So that's neither here nor there. What's important to understand is what is actually causing this and why. And it's because we don't have the ability to deal with that many deaths at one time, and then that could totally spin out of control. So that's really what everybody's working at collectively in order to prevent from happening. That is real. I knew that there was something about this was real a little over a week ago when I saw big business was actually taking this serious. I was like, because at first everybody kind of thought, well, it's political and it's political season and everybody's blowing everything out of proportion. But when I started looking at it and I saw how much big business was getting involved in it from a protection standpoint, I was like, big business doesn't do that just because something is political. There's something else going on here. And it took a while to actually kind of figure out what that was. So what I'm telling you is the reason why we're actually experiencing what it is that we're experiencing right now. And it's why that we're making the decisions that we're actually making, so that it doesn't actually reach that peak where, it's overloading the healthcare system. So we do want to get a handle on the virus. We want to get rid of it or eradicate it or cure it or whatever it is that we have to do that. All of that is absolutely true. But it's important to know why we're going through what we're going through. Now, the next phase to keep your mind sane in this situation is coming to a place of accepting what's actually happening. It doesn't mean that a person has to like it, but if we can learn to accept what's actually taking place right now in this moment, it will allow us to make much more sound decisions going forward. So the first thing that we have is kind of the shock of what has already happened and what's happening. Then we go to a place where hopefully we can move into a place of understanding. And if we go into a place of understanding, we can get to a place of acceptance. If we can get to a place of acceptance, we can make sound decisions so that we can do what's absolutely necessary for ourselves in the moment. Okay. So let's talk about understanding. Part of what I'm helping you do today is to understand what's going on, the situation, and put it into a framework that becomes something that we can deal with as far as acceptance. If we say, well, we have no idea when this is going to end and we don't know what's going to happen and anything is possible. If we start going into that all or nothing thinking, then it becomes very difficult for us to accept. If everybody would reframe in their mind that basically what we're doing as a society, basically what we're doing as a world right now, is that we're pushing pause so that the benefit of what we need to do can happen for everybody, and that we're going to resume after the pause, and we're going to build up anything that broke during the pause, and then we're going to make it stronger so everybody can move forward. When you get to that place in the acceptance, the very next important thing to do is to start to envision, what do you want to do when this is over? Now, why do we jump to that place? Because it's the idea that, you know, why we're here to begin with as human beings, right? We're here to create. We have the ability to envision. We all have an imagination. We all have a desire for how we want to live our life. And when we take away everything that is the context of how that works, we're kind of left with no vision, because if we really don't believe the vision is going to happen, we don't do anything with it. So the idea here is that we get to a place psychologically, emotionally, where we can start to bring the vision of what we were creating before this happened back into our life. And maybe another good thing about this is that it gives all of us time to pause a little bit and think about that vision a little bit more. And, you know, I had, as a young man, I had a near-death experience that caused a total change of perception in my life. And it taught me how fragile life was, how expedient it is, and the moment that, you know, any moment of any day, anybody could be gone. When you're in your early 20s, you don't really think about that. But that changed for me when I had a very severe accident when I was in my 20s. And what that allowed me to do is it allowed me to have more urgency over my life, to make decisions at a much rapid rate and not procrastinate about what my purpose was in life. I sincerely hope that this crisis does this for everyone, because it will allow a person to become more vigilant about their own purpose and actually getting up and doing something productive with that purpose right now. And right now, the best thing that we can do is to move to that place where we can start to envision, what are we going to do when this ends? And I'm going to be talking about that quite a bit in the upcoming days here, right? And if you have questions about it, I want to talk about that too when we go to Q&A on any one of these days, because I think it's very important. Now, we get to the place where we make a vision for where we're going. In our mind, what we've actually done is we've created a psychological structure that has hope in it. And while there's no logical sense to hope, human beings can't live without it, right? So I know that in times of peace and non-crisis and all that, we say hope is not a strategy. But actually, hope is a strategy. It's a strategy for life. When a person gives up hope, usually they die or commit suicide. So the idea is that what we want to do is we want to keep hope relevant in our life, hope for the future, hope for what we're going to do when this is over. And that may be, 2 weeks from now. I mean, who knows? So it's very, very important, because it allows you to create that vision in your life and allows you to move to a more stable emotional state. Now, what's the benefit of that? Well, first of all, it helps you feel good. It allows you to take care of yourself in a healthy way. And it allows you to take care of your family in a healthy way. But it does something else that is very important for setting up the right environment psychologically and physically, materialistically, in our life to be able to come out of this thing in a really great place. It allows us to ask, how can we help someone else? And there's a lot of different ways to help someone. I was supposed to have an appointment to get my hair cut very early this morning. And because of the situation, I decided to cancel that appointment. And I told her that I said, listen, when this is all over, I'll still pay you for the appointments that I missed. And the reason that I decided to do that was because I know what her financial situation is. I know that she has children. She's actually out there working because she needs the money. And it's very important for her to keep bringing money into her family at the moment. And so I was like, I can do this very easily for you. I will make sure that you get paid for the times that we missed, because that's revenue out of her pocket. That was a way for me this morning to actually reach out and help somebody else in their time of need. What did that do for her? Because it's not like it's that much money, but it took some of the worry off of her mind for the day. And that's, if we can help other people with that. Maybe you're in a position where you can help financially somebody else, another family or something. That's great if you can do that. If you can't do that, maybe you're in a position where you could reach out and help somebody lift some of the worry, help them envision where they're moving forward in their life and how everything is going to be okay. But we can't do that if we don't take care of ourselves first. If we don't really spend the time working on our own psychology and our own emotional state so that we're really in a good place, to create whatever it is that we want. Another thing that we have to be very careful that we don't do is fall into the place of waiting for somebody else to help us as individuals, and realize that, we always want, in some place in our mind, we're very susceptible to wanting somebody to come in and rescue us or save the day, whether it's the government or our employer or whoever it is. And for all of you that are on this call, I think all of you on this call are very special, because you're actually consciously seeking some way to help you through this. Give yourself the idea of being your own hero in this crisis, meaning that you have that within you to do that, and you have that in you in a way that you can literally be a great benefit to many other people. So there's even more benefit to doing this. So we're reframing in our mind, we're understanding, we're accepting what's going on, we're envisioning the future, we are reaching out and helping other people. That gives us a sense of well-being. It helps us feel in control. It's doing something good. Everything in the universe operates by cause and effect. You have to give in order to receive, and you have to give from your heart. You can't give from fear. So you give whatever is appropriate for you all to give. But this is where the next piece comes in that's so vitally important. It allows us to move back into being vulnerable as human beings. And when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we do something that's very fascinating. Like if you just tell somebody, hey, because there's a lot of this going on right now, hey, practice love your neighbor, right? In all reality, it's freaking hard to do that when you're scared and you don't know where your money's coming from. You don't know if you'll have a job tomorrow. You don't know if you'll get the disease. When your mind is filled with all that kind of worry, it's very hard to feel love in your heart for anybody. Not saying that you don't love people, but to just practice that. So what allows us to do that is to move ourselves through this process that I'm outlining today. And the next piece is vulnerability. It allows us to be vulnerable. When we move into a place of vulnerability, we literally step into the true definition of love. The true definition of love is basically when I consider another person's needs as the equivalent of my own, both in urgency and in action. So we're looking at, how urgent is another person's needs and the action to help them create that, and whatever the scope or the size of that is. When we literally come from that place, consciously or unconsciously, we're practicing love with other people. And that's something that you can feel as an individual, and other people will feel because you can feel that. It's also a great way to help a person move into a place of calm and ease because they can feel that coming from you. But it's very difficult to get there if you're in fear. So if you follow the process that I just gave, it allows you to move into a place of being vulnerable, because it's in that vulnerable place. What's actually happening when you're vulnerable is you're open. You're open. And Steph, I'm letting you know right now, I may have to pause this. The fire department is here banging on the office door. So I'm just letting you know you may have to take over here for a minute. So we want to allow ourselves to be vulnerable, and so that we can help other people. And as we can help other people, so we better our lives and we better their lives. Now, we want to be really careful that we don't go into a place of blame. Now, I talked about this before, but the way that I want to explain it at this moment, it allows you to really kind of determine how you're going to create moving forward. If you remove blame and you really accept responsibility for the situation that you're in right now, it does something very special. It allows you to determine how you're going to behave, what you're going to do when you step out of it. If you subconsciously accepted blame in any way, if certain things go wrong or are not perfect, when we all come out of this pause, you're going to be looking for justice, for some kind of justification. Some people will literally be looking for revenge, which is like a really terrible road. But the idea is that you really ask yourself, how do I change the situation that I'm in going forward? How am I actually going to change that in my life? I'm going to be my own hero. I am going to be the person that takes in charge of my life, and I'm going to actually make a change moving forward, which means you can start planning during your day right now to determine what you're going to do when this is over. And the next piece here I want to talk about is management. How do we manage the finances of what's going on right now? So the idea is this. First, you have to understand how much money you have and how long it will last for at your current rate of spend. So that's not difficult to do. You see how much money's coming in, how much you have. Maybe it's not coming in, so how much do you have that you can access? And how long will it last at your current rate of spend? Once you determine that, it is now going to allow you to determine what you actually do next. So it basically, know this: the longer this goes on, the longer everybody is put in this position, okay, where they have to determine how much they have and how long they can keep spending where they're spending before they have to do something. So what is it that they have to do when they realize, I can't keep spending this way day after day, week after week? It is determining what you can put on pause. Now, I'm going to say this because I believe that this is what's going to happen. This is partially factual because it's already happening in some circumstances, but I can't cover this with an absolute for everybody that's listening to this right now. So, but this is what I really think, and I think this is what makes the most sense. There are people that are going to have to stop paying their rent, stop paying their mortgage, stop paying their car, their automobile loan, et cetera, right? And I don't think there's any way for all of the different companies to actually come back and give us the penalties that we would normally have for that kind of behavior if everything was going on in the world. And the reason for it is this: what actually happened here was not our fault. We did not cause everything that's actually going on. So it's if we had caused what was going on, then yes, then that's where we get those kind of penalties where they take your house or your car, or they give you bad credit or whatever. But being that we didn't, I think what they're going to do is they're going to create mandates where that people can't do that. During a certain period of time, if you didn't pay something, they're most likely going to let that slide in some way. Now, I can't prove that that's going to happen, but it seems to make the most sense because it doesn't seem logical that any company in their right mind would be on the wrong, want to be on the wrong side of history coming out of this thing and be held up to peer review as making the situation worse for people versus actually doing whatever they can to help them. And in all fairness to those individuals that are companies, and in considering what companies that we have to pay are actually also going through, is that they're nervous because it's going to go from the bottom up, like it's the house of cards that I was talking about. You can't pay your mortgage, and then everybody can't pay their mortgage, and then the mortgage company's starting to collapse. And then what ends up happening is that they need to go for some kind of a government bailout. The government knows all of this. I think the reason we haven't heard too much around it currently is because right now their biggest priority, their biggest triage is that we have to stop the virus. We have to stop it. We have to slow it down as best we can. Things that are not as important yet, they will be addressed. And of course, nobody's going to come out and tell you what an absolute is, because they have to weigh all the possibilities before they can do that. Unfortunately, that leaves a lot of chaos open for people's minds. But if you practice what I talked to you about today, you won't be in as much chaos. Think really logically about these things, and you know that they really start to make a lot of sense. So then we get to the place of, well, what are we going to pause on? And it's simply picking up the phone, having a conversation with whatever you've decided to pause, and explaining to them that due to the circumstances, you're pausing and you'll get back on track as soon as the circumstances are over. Now, I would hope that everybody is met with a kind person on the other end of that line. But if you're not, don't get upset about it. Just say, I understand your position, but this is what I'm doing. And you take responsibility for your end of the conversation and you move forward that way. Some of you are going to be able to withstand this for a long time financially, and that's great for you if you can do that. Maybe you can also help some other people also. If you can't do that, don't feel shame about it. Don't feel guilty about it. And don't judge yourself because you can't do it. This is no reflection on any individual out there currently as to what the situation is. So I would not be concerned about it from that aspect. Another thing, before we open it up to questions, is that I would, for those of you that are running businesses and you're currently getting paid, I would not get into payment receiving shame. I hear a lot of that going on. People are feeling guilty for selling their products or services. They're feeling guilty for receiving money right now. As long as you're being honest and you're ethical about what you're selling and the other person is willing to pay for it, there's not a damn thing to feel guilty about, okay? We need as much as we can to keep this economy flowing the best that we can. So as long as you're willing to provide your product or service and somebody's willing to pay for that product or service, go for it. Absolutely go for it 100%. That's fantastic. Because the truth of the matter is, almost for any business, that you can find people that'll buy in any kind of a situation. So this is a situation. Some people will be able to, and some people won't. So just know that, and don't feel any kind of shame around that. I just want to check and make sure I hit all the points that I wanted to make today. The other thing is that what we want to start doing is to focus on the lesson that comes out of this for all of us. This can also be time of great introspection for every single person. And if we focus on the lesson, then what does it mean to you individually? It allows you to give yourself great hope, great focus, great vision. It allows you to know if and what you want to change in your life coming out of this. This is, based on the law of polarity, which means that everything has an opposite and it's equal and opposite. The whole idea here is that we kind of know this is not a good thing. It's in a really big way, it's not a good thing. That means that the opposite side is that there needs to be good things about it. And that's for every individual in every situation. That law applies. I had somebody ask me on the last call that I was on, what do I think is the best law to really take into consideration right now based on the 7 laws? And I had a different answer than I usually have, because this is an unprecedented situation. So I said, in this case, probably the number one law that a person needs to understand the most is the law of relativity, because everything is relative, and how we relate things in our mind to what's happening now determines our quality of life. It determines our psychological stability. It determines our emotional state. It determines how we're behaving and treating other people. It determines our level of hope and vision for coming out of this. It allows us to stay in what's important right now to us, and to really understand it as a whole from a place of, look, this is a pause moment in my life, and this too will pass, and things will be bigger and better moving forward. And that's going to be great for everyone. So Steph, the fire department has decided to leave. Apparently it wasn't that urgent. If you could open it up for questions, that would be fantastic.
I'd love to. Hi, everybody. I'm glad the fire department's taken care of, because I wasn't exactly sure what I was going to be teaching virtually for a few minutes there. Okay, on this Zoom live stream, we've got a Q&A at the bottom of your screen. If you have a question, go ahead and type it in there. And please, I'm getting a lot of questions, but some of them are just not actually asking a specific question. So if you could be really specific so I can make sure to get your answer, that would be great. And David, we've got a mix of questions between like super tactical to super spiritual. So I'm just going to ask and be
Go ahead, I'm here.
All right. So the first question is coming from Regina. She asks, does pushing pause include not sending invoices for work that you've already performed?
I think that's up to you as an individual. If you want to wait, if you want to call people and you want to talk to them and have a personal conversation around invoices and ask them where they are, if you feel in your heart that you want to allow people to wait to pay you, then that's great. If you don't, there's nothing wrong with sending it. They do owe you the money, and you need to communicate that to them. So in either way, whatever your choice is, don't feel guilty about it. Don't feel bad about it. But I would also say have compassion and empathy for people that may not be able to pay you. I've already told my clients that if they have trouble, then we're going to pause their payments right now, and I will continue to coach them until this is over, and then we'll get caught up at that time. And I think the people that do have the money to pay will pay, and people that are scared and don't, they won't, and that's okay.
Okay, thank you. This question is coming from M. Kate. I'm a brick and mortar photographer by trade. I help women mostly with confidence. My work goes into almost coaching these women to help them learn to trust themselves and make choices out of confidence. They're mostly moms. This person is a mom herself and owns her own business. She says, I feel I could serve best in this time by offering coaching for moms to take control of their actions and mind daily. I do this already in my business to serve women, but I could see how I can be creative to help these women rise to lead in a time of uncertainty. My hang up is I feel guilty charging for this, but I do also need to control what I can to feed my own family. Is this a good idea to do this?
I think it's absolutely a good idea. It's your personal decision as to whether you want to charge or not. That's one. It's your personal decision whether you feel bad about somebody that says that I just know, like, you might have somebody that says, you know what, I really need that, but I can't pay for it. So then you have to choose what you're going to do in that situation. But I don't think that you need to feel bad about it, because yes, we need to take everybody else into consideration, but we need to take care of what we actually need first. And if you actually really need the money right now, and you do have something, I agree, that is something that is definitely useful right now, I say go ahead with it. Do it.
Okay, here's another one. This was kind of more and more etherical angle. My understanding is that this virus and its impact is one level of truth and reality, and the energetic level of truth is also working and is more powerful. My thoughts and intentions can and do supersede the impact or effect of any microbes. Is this a useful way to think and speak about the energetic spiritual powers interacting with the matter level of events, the chemistry and biology?
Yes, it is. But it's also like the biblical saying, trust in God and tie up your camels. It is the correct mindset is absolutely necessary. And you also continue to do the things that make sense, like washing your hands and social distancing and whatever is necessary to not get the virus and not spread it. So I think you handle it both ways. Here's what a person has to be careful of. when it comes to, can I believe my way out of this situation? Because it is magical thinking. When we get to that point, we have to understand that we live in a physical world, and the physical world affects us. During all of this noise that's going on, every person has been susceptible to suggestion. And the only thing that you need to crack a belief is suggestion. Once suggestion gets in your mind, it disempowers your belief system, and you have the ability to then manifest whatever that suggestion is, especially if it's playing on fears or old trauma or old wounds or old illnesses. It makes it very easy. I heard somebody put a meme up the other day that, and judge it if you want, but there was a lot of truth in it. It says, Jesus is not a vaccination. Stay home. And I was like, okay, I get it. I get the point. So, again, it's trust in God, tie up your camels type of thing. It's very good to pray, to practice your religious beliefs or your spiritual beliefs, to keep your mindset straight. But you also want to do the things that make most sense in our physical world. You want to be present in both places.
Perfect. Next question is from Sabrina. Hi, David. I own an estate planning firm. Part of me wants to provide complimentary designation of healthcare surrogate documents or some other estate planning document that every individual should have. I don't know if this is a good idea or what channels I should go through. I want to continue to serve others through my business at this time. How do I know if I should offer a free service?
Ask yourself, so this is a really good question. I want to thank you for asking this question. I want everybody to think about something very, very important. I know that a lot of you, probably the majority of you, are really concerned about money. Ask yourself if your decision to sell or to continue to try to move your business forward is fear-based or is it service-based? You're the only one that can be really clear on that. I can't be inside your life, or I can't be inside your business. I can only tell you how to think about those things. If you have to ask yourself, which is coming from your heart the most? Is it to serve people, and do you actually need the money? I see a benefit in what you're doing. I think there's people that'll pay for it, and there's people that can pay for it. You just have to find those individuals. If you want to give it away, if that's what your heart's doing, without guilt, by the way. So you want to make sure that guilt is not controlling your wanting to give it. Like, you're not guilting yourself into giving something away, but you're really coming from the place, I really want to help or bless another person, then go ahead and give it away. That's my answer, Steph.
Thanks. This next question is coming from Anna. I would love guidance or a way to meditate on our life's purpose, especially during this pause.
You just broke up just a little bit. Could you repeat that one more time?
Sure. I would love a guidance or a way to meditate on our life's purpose, especially during this pause. This question came in when you were talking about how to take this time to really focus on purpose.
Yeah. Okay, great. So the first thing I would do is I would ask yourself, did you have a vision? Did you have a purpose? Did you have goals? Did you have something that you were working toward before this, or was this been a struggle before this actually happened? If it was a struggle before it actually happened, then I get that. And if it wasn't a struggle before that it happened, if this has caused it to be a struggle, then I think that's very different, because what we want to do is we want to subside the fear before we start going to the life purpose thing. We don't want to create a life purpose out of fear. We want to be very careful there. Okay. I see people, and this happens in individual crises also. People will have an experience in life that scared them, or there was trauma. Somehow they got out of it and they were very grateful, and now they're going to dedicate their whole life to it, but they get 10 years down the road and realize they don't even like it. But they feel guilty about not doing it. So we want to make sure that nobody comes from that aspect either. However, the ideas that we get to hope, and we really look at, because our world is so busy and moving 1,000 miles an hour constantly. This is forcing everybody to just stay at home and calm down for a little bit. So I would ask everybody to just give themselves a breather for a few days. Just kind of relax into it a little bit. Understand that the universe doesn't hide anything from us. A lot of people are frenetically running around going, what's my purpose? What's my purpose? What's my purpose? The universe isn't hiding your purpose from you. It is your energy around not having it, not using it, not being good enough. Like it's frenetic energy around a person or fear that causes them from not seeing your fear. So if you get into that vulnerable place, if you allow yourself to just sit into that vulnerable place and breathe into it, you'll find that your heart begins to open. And as your heart begins to open, you'll be able to see further down the road. If you eliminate the fear and you think logically about what is actually going on, you'll be able to see further down the road. And you'll be able to create a vision for your life. And then that is something that you can begin to plan for. So you can write it down as a big vision, and then you can work on it over the upcoming days as to how you want to break down that into cause and effect steps to get where it is that you want to go.
Thanks, David. Next question is coming from Lori. I have no money coming in and no access to money. Should I take money from my retirement? I don't want to cash it in with the market a mess, but I don't have a choice.
Well, you always have a choice. So just because you're in what we would call a no-win situation does not mean that you don't have a choice. You always have a choice. There really is nothing such as a no-win situation. That's all about perception. I would ask yourself, like really, really think through this. Is there any other way for you to make money? Is there any other way for you to get money? There's a lot of people that they believe they're being forced into tapping into their retirement or tapping into a savings that was for a future time. If that becomes absolutely necessary, then obviously, yes, you do it. But what I would like everybody to consider is, let's say this goes on for a long time. Everybody will reach a run out point. A person's run out point may be now. They may be run out right now. It may be tomorrow. It could be 6 months from now. So if you just take that strategy, it's not a good strategy, because at some point it'll run out. And actually there's a little bit of magical thinking in there, like, well, I know it's going to end, but I don't know when it's going to end. And you just get buried in the ease of spending the money. So I would start asking yourself, if you need to take a little bit of money out to get you, say, through the next week, great. But start asking yourself, where can you get money from an outside source? And how can you do that? And we are, as I continue on with these calls, we are also going to be putting resources together for everybody. My team is currently working on a resource package for other people, or for everybody that's actually listening to this, and we're going to be sharing that with you all in the days coming ahead.
Okay, next question. I actually love this question. This question's from Adam. What is the best thing I can do for my team right now?
Have compassion. Have compassion for where they are. Understand where they are. Listen to them. A great way to practice compassion is to allow somebody to be seen, validated, and heard. And I think that it's important that we do that with all the people on our team at the moment, to reassure them. You have to make a decision what you're going to do with your team. I don't know what your personal situation is in regards to your team. So, whatever it is, be clear, be open, be honest, have that conversation with them, and really listen to their concerns and see how you can meet each other's needs. That would be the best thing.
Should I share what we're doing with our team, or what we've been doing the past couple of days?
Yeah, go ahead.
So with our team, because we've closed our office. David's the only one in the office right now. We're all working from home. Clearly, I've got 800 people in my bedroom with me currently. Is that we're just doing kind of check-ins. And my favorite question to ask our team is, how are you feeling right now? And just allowing them to say like how they're experiencing what's going on around them. And that's, I think, a great way to allow your team to feel heard and validated, and also to really feel like they're still a part of a community, even though they might be isolated.
And so I see, is that Melanie that put that big long post up in the chat box right there? Those are really good ideas, Melanie. Thank you for posting that. That's fantastic.
Okay, next question is coming from Brenda. Hi, David. You mentioned at the beginning, pause a business that isn't needed right now. What type of businesses do you feel are most needed? Well,
that's one of the things that we're looking for resources for. I mean, there's the obvious. There's There's food, there's food and supply delivery, there's medical, there's assisting medical, like assisting our medical community, finding ways to assist anywhere, whether it's the utilities or the fire department or the police department. Like we have to get really creative as to how we do that. So the delivery is like one of the really big ones right now. There was somebody in a neighborhood close to mine that I thought did something really great. She typed up a sheet and she made duplicate copies. And basically what it was she left it at everybody's door and she told them, you mark down what you need on this sheet and I will go get it for you so that you don't have to leave the house. There's a lot of elderly people in that community also. And I thought that is somebody who's really thinking, she's going to do that. She'll leave it on their doorstep so she doesn't have to see them. She'll go pick it up at the store. She'll pick up their prescriptions. She'll pick up whatever it is that they need, and she'll do it. And a person could do that and charge for it, or they can do it for free. It's entirely up to them. But I know it's one of the biggest things right now. So we look for opportunity where things have broken down and where other needs need to be met, and we see how can we as an individual fit into that slot. So one of the things that you could do is you could go on the internet and you could type in what has shut down based on the coronavirus. And I'm sure that there'll be an entire list of stuff that has shut down, and ask yourself, where in there could I fit with my unique expertise and skill set, and see how you can help. That would be the best thing. But we will, like, as we become aware of things as the days go on, we'll bring them to you.
Okay, next question is from Shannon. Hi, David. I have 2 retail locations of galleries, and I'm not planning on closing them unless forced to. Many businesses are closing by choice. I'm dealing with the guilt of not closing. I know you just covered that, but wanted to see personal recommendation. Also, I'm noticing this internal panic I'm having without being in a marriage. Like I'm in this alone.
Yes. Hi, Shannon. So here's the thing. I think that we all need to play a role in this. So I'm not judging you, but in my opinion, if you were to ask me, I would close. I think your decision to stay open is out of fear. I don't think it's out of love. And I understand, and it's okay to be afraid. Please understand, I'm not judging you in any way. So I very much understand. I don't think that even if you keep them open, I don't think that you should feel guilty, because that's not productive either. But I think that if you really search your heart for love, you'll find out that probably the best decision to make is to actually close for a while, and know that we all have this sense of feeling alone right now. The crisis alone creates a feeling of alone, even though, I do this thing called the 7 dynamics of change in my live seminars. And there's one exercise that people do that causes a person to become very self-conscious just for about a minute. And after it, I talk about, it's interesting that we all, in that very moment that we do that exercise, because we're self-conscious in that moment, we think that we're the only one going through it. And we feel very, very alone, even though there might be hundreds of people going through the same thing at the same time. And now we have a whole world that's going through the same thing at the same time. So you're not alone. I would reach out via email. I would reach out via text. I would reach out via Skype, whatever you can do, to other people that you know. And maybe in the evening you could have a cocktail with that person. You could talk about how your day was. You have to proactively set stuff up for yourself. So when you have friends, family, coaches, anybody, see if you can set up times just to say hi for a few minutes, or talk about things. Like it goes a real long way. People are getting really creative about this, by the way. They're playing games together online. I was hearing this morning about communities where they're putting their chairs out on the front lawn, and they all come out at 5 o'clock and they all have drinks together and tease each other from across the street, so that everybody's finding interesting ways to create a sense of community. That's the part about the personal responsibility, that we take responsibility for our own individual situation. And then we say, hey, how can I do something about this that is so I can get my needs met and I can help somebody else get their needs met at the same time?
Thank you. Okay, next question. Hi, David. You said earlier that if you are not directly able to help, to pause selling. I've been ramping up on social media, etc. Should I not be? And this question's from Lucia.
So I don't think it's a should you be or should you not be. I think that if we all think about this, if we're coming from the first of all, if we don't have a product or service that is really a necessity right now, um, what you're doing is you just keep putting it out, putting it out, putting it out, putting it out. But everybody's in crisis mode, so they're not really seeing what you sell, right? Here's the thing, Lucia. There may be some companies right now that are perfectly fine and untouched by this. I don't know who they are. I'm just saying that they may be out there. If you can find them, they may be very interested in doing a deal right now. This affects everybody in different ways. But to just plaster it out on the internet, there's so many people doing that with businesses and trying to sell something because it's all coming from fear right now. Nobody can see anything other than what's most important to them in this individual moment. That's why ramping up your marketing, ramping up your dollar spend, throwing money after a bad situation is a horrible, horrible decision because you're not going to get anything back for it, right? So we want to stay very conscious. Like Lucy, I know what your business is. I don't think that there's going to be a lot of people that are really interested in that right now. You may want to pause it or be very selective as to who you contact. And just if you have to put things on pause financially, I explained how to do that. And then find somebody to help in this situation. Remember this, everyone. I know that there's fear, and I know that people are in this place of like grab, 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 grab. The seeds that you sow through this is what's going to bear fruit weeks and months from now. If you sow fear into this situation, it's not going to bear good fruit when it's over. If you sow good seeds, like you do good things, you come from a place of abundance, real abundance, and you come from a place of giving, you're sowing a seed. You're sowing a seed spiritually, you're sowing a seed socially, you're sowing a seed with your own heart and soul, with your family. That there is going to be a time where you harvest the result of that seed. We're all going to harvest something out of this. And what it comes down to is what we put into it. Whatever we put into it is what we're going to harvest. So you have to be a blessing to yourself, and you have to find a way to be a blessing to other people. Remember, personal responsibility, and then you want to go to information. We want to understand, we want to accept, and then we want to move forward from that place.
Thank you. New question from Maria. Hi there. What do we need to be mindful of in our approach to decision making right now?
You need to be mindful. I would say, well, first of all, you have the whole virus situation. So be mindful of that, that you're respecting the guidelines that have been laid down for us. The next thing we need to be mindful of is our own personal health, safety, and finances. So it starts, with your own self, and it kind of works out from there. I really, really suggest, and for a lot of people, this is a very big deal because so many people are afraid of money. They don't even know how much money they spend every month. This is a really good time to sit down, take a look at your bills. Don't judge yourself. Understand what you have coming in. Understand how much you have. Understand what your spend is every week. And how long can you sustain that at this current moment? And then you need to make decisions based on what that is. If you're going to start pausing what you're spending money on, so it kind of works with big things first, because chances are nobody's going to kick you out of your house or apartment. It's just not going to happen right now. And it goes all the way down to like your own food and clothes, right? So it's based on survival. Being that this was something that no individual caused, we're all in the same situation together. They're going to be very lax on what the outcome of that is. So that's where you get into the pausing of things. You have to determine what those are for you, but they should work back in their order of priority and consequence.
This question is similar. I'm just making sure we're not missing something. This question is from Vanessa. She asks, how do you deal with the frantic energy that seeps in about money?
Okay, this is a really good question. So that is fear, and it's probably based on what you're observing and the meaning that you're giving it right now. So I'm just going to create a scenario, and then you have to think about your own specific scenario. So let's say you don't have any money coming in. Either your business or your job has completely stopped. There's no money coming in. You have a limited amount of savings, and you have a large outflow. So your house, your apartment, your car, whatever, your utilities, whatever, your credit cards, whatever you have to pay money on, all of that is what's being sent out. So the idea is, this is where we get into a little self-preservation. We want to be able to get through this thing. So we have to decide how we're going to spend the money, and it can't be ruled by fear. It has to be ruled by logic and what makes sense. And the basic idea behind this is that we don't want to be completely broke when we come out the other side of this, especially if we have a business. We want to be able to pick up where we left off. That's where I came up with the idea of pause, that we're pausing everything. So all the bills that we have to pay, I think you don't just not pay it. You make a phone call, not send an email. You have a conversation with somebody that you're not going to pay. You ask them to understand and that you're making this decision, and that's what your decision is. You don't let them guilt you, berate you, trip you up into any kind of other decision. You do what is actually best for you, but stick to your decision, and then you move forward about it. If you're in fear, if you're saying, well, I don't have enough, that's a little bit different. And then you need to start asking yourself, who can I ask for help? Because that is the answer. The only answer is, who can I ask for help? If your business is not something that is going to sell right now, if that's what the situation is, you have to accept that, and then you have to ask for help. And there's no shame in asking for help. And you continue to ask for help until you find somebody that can and is willing to help you. We all need to help the best that we can right now. So we not only do we ask for help, we seek ways that we can help one another.
David, would it be okay if I shared a resource that I took some time and learned a lot about yesterday? So for those of you with small businesses, right now there's two different ways that you can apply for an SBA loan. One is through a SBA disaster and injury relief loan, which is a loan directly from the government. You can apply for that by going to sba.gov. If you want information, email me at steph@davidnagel.com and I'll send it your way. And then there's also another option, which is a regular SBA loan through a private lender. And the government right now is incentivizing lenders to give out loans to small business owners, with the exception of a small business owner needs to have their 2019 taxes filed, not paid for, because they're giving you three additional 90 days, basically a 90-day extension on when your taxes are due as of right now. So you need to have them filed. So if you don't have your 2019 taxes filed, I highly recommend that you do that. Thank you, Connie van der Zanden, for putting the link in there. And you can take up to $350,000. And the turnaround time is actually rather quick. With the government disaster relief, it's actually very slow. So the person that I was listening to yesterday who advises the White House was saying that sometimes it can take up to 5 months to get a loan like that, and he doesn't know if they're going to be fast tracking anything. So a really good resource is sba.gov. It is. And then if you look in the chat, Connie van der Zanden has posted 2 links, read my mind, to loan resources for you. So you do have some options if you own a small business to get some relief. The interest rates are rather low. I know with the government loan, the disaster relief loan, I think the interest rate right now is right around 3%. And with the small business loans from private lenders, it's coming in anywhere between 4 and 9%. So just some facts. Go to the links that Connie's provided in the chat. Thank you again. And any other information that I come across, and trust me, I'm looking everywhere for resources, we'll be sharing those with you as we become aware of them. Okay, next question.
And just to let everybody know, the call tomorrow is at 4:30 Eastern.
Yes.
And we're going to have, I'm going to do a teaching, and then we're going to also have more information for you as far as resources go tomorrow, and we'll have open Q&A after the teaching call.
Awesome. Next question. How can social media influencers use their voice to inspire hope and understanding to the masses?
Yeah, great question. Great idea also. I think it's about, I think one of the most important reminders, if we think about it from a cause and effect perspective, although I do believe in authenticity and a person has to produce in this situation based on what's on their own heart, right? So I'll just put that out there. But and what we can do is remind people to think about the facts, to really stay in the facts, encourage people not to get involved in all the negativity and all the doomsaying and all the rumors and all the political agenda that's going on, to stay out of that stuff. It's very, very, very destructive. It's nasty. It's, it's downright evil. I mean, it's crazy, the stuff that's actually going out right now. And the panic that's happening in some of the stores and stuff. So we want to stay away from that as much as we can and remind people of what the truth is. So tell the truth, remind people of the truth. Tell them, that this is a pause in their life. That's all it is. It's just a pause. In a few weeks, we'll be able to push play again, hopefully. It's just a pause. Tell them to pay attention to the facts. Tell them to love one another. Tell them the things that I'm teaching you. Reach out in your own individual circles and spread it on. Let's just keep it moving, because we can, we really create this great web through infiltrating the world through all of us, right? So I'm contributing here in a way, and then you guys take my stuff, your stuff, and you can continue to contribute. And we help a massive amount of people doing it that way. But do what's on your heart. Like, really, if you want to create beautiful pictures, if you want to create music, if you want to create art, you want to tell jokes, like whatever you want to do that's positive and productive, do it, because it will touch someone. Somebody needs to see whatever you create. That's a law of the universe.
Okay, I'm going to ask this question because I think a lot of people are feeling it. We've got 51 questions lined up. I don't know that we're going to get to them. We're already headed over time, but let's keep going for a little bit longer. Are you cool with that, David?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, so this question's from Michelle. I'm really mad and irritated about this whole thing. Mad about not being able to go to my gyms, mad about people's fear around this. How can I release this anger?
Understand that your anger is about control. It is a way for you to maintain a feeling of control. And the reason is this: because you're familiar with anger. You understand your patterns around anger, and you're angry at things that you also understand to some degree. So that's why it's a feeling of control. So if you understand the truth about what you're doing internally to process, to cause anger, it becomes a little bit easier to release. Now here's another truth. With everything that we're angry about or everything that we're afraid of, if we flip it over, if we use the law of polarity and we flip it over, we can equally find something very good about it. But it takes a conscious effort to do so, because it's not always apparent right away, because if it doesn't fit into our current pattern way of thinking, we have to stick with the emotion and the way we're going to feel about it until the truth of that reveals itself to us. So that's why gratitude is so important. So ask yourself, take each thing you're angry about one at a time, write them down on a sheet of paper, okay? And then just take one at a time. Like, you might want to write stuff down on a sheet of paper, like say here, okay? And then you take another sheet so that you're only looking at one thing. So it looks like that. And you want to focus on that, and you want to ask yourself, what can I be grateful for about this? What is something that's good about this situation? Now, your subconscious mind go, damn it, there's nothing good about this. I hate it. It's awful. I can't stand it. Just sit with it until you can find something to be grateful. When you find something to be grateful about it, write it down and then move on to the next one. And as you continue to do that, you'll begin to shift your perception around this. You'll allow yourself to fall into that gratitude. You'll allow yourself to be more vulnerable. When you allow yourself to be more vulnerable, you're moving out of fear, right? As you move out of fear, use that logic and use that vulnerability to see the truth in all of it and start to create a vision to move forward.
David, what do you do if your business revenue can no longer support your entire staff? If I press pause, I would have to lay off employees. Yes. By the way, thank you for the phenomenal teaching.
You're very welcome. Thank you for the compliment. Yes. There's a lot of people that have to do that. I'll even have to do that if it goes too long. I mean, every company will have to do that if it goes too long, right? There's only if there's no cash coming in, there's only so much that people have, even if you're a billionaire. So the idea is that you have a conversation with them and you tell them what's actually happening. I would not beat yourself up about it. I understand you would feel bad. I would feel bad if I had to lay somebody off also. I don't like doing that. That's in my mind, it's a last resort for me outside of my own personal, safety and needs. But you have a conversation, you tell them what's going on. I would also recommend that you see if you can keep that in a way where you can help them in some way. And I think here's another fear that's going on right now. A lot of people are being laid off and they don't know if they're going to have a job when this is over. And I hear the news saying that a lot, like a whole lot, like way too much, a lot. The news is saying it because that's the way things traditionally happen during a recession. This is not a traditional recession that we're in. I think this is going to bounce right back up as fast as it came down once it's actually over, because the thing that's causing the uncertainty in the markets is the virus and how we're actually handling the virus, and do we have a handle on it? We had a great economy before that happened. So we should go very close back to where we were, if not rise above it, almost immediately after it's announced that we can get back on with our lives. But yes, it is a very reality that people are going to have to be put on pause. We're going to have to let people go during this, and be as honest as you can, be as compassionate as you can, see if there's some way that you can help them. And if it's true for you that they'll have a job when you come back, communicate that to them. And if it's not, you might want to communicate that to them also, so that they're not looking forward to something that won't be there when this is over, and they could start planning for their future.
This is another great question. These questions are amazing, you guys. Honestly, it's hard for me to pick and choose what to ask. This one's from Adrian. I'm conflicted. I know my aging parents are frightened and need me to send some love and light their way right now. But I also recognize that I need to protect my own mindset right now, as they are so full of fear and anger and blame. Can you share your guidance on how to find balance between helping others and protecting my own mindset?
Yes. So it's really about understanding yourself and how much you can be around them. Like what is good for you and what is not good for you. There's a lot of us that have older parents that are very cynical around this whole thing. And we all know we're not changing their mind. A lot of us have parents that are like that. No matter what you do, no matter what you know, you ain't changing their mind. So we just have to accept that. But then we have to determine how much time should we spend with them so that they feel okay, but we don't want them to infect our mind also. So you get to choose that. That's the good thing about this. You get to choose it. And I would not feel guilty for the amount of time that you can't spend with them, because it's important that you take care of you first. I also realize that there's probably some relationships out there that are on the toxic level, and people will have parents or family members guilting them for not spending time with them, or what they didn't do before this happened. And now they're in a situation. Number one, another adult is never your fault. Okay. Another adult and what they choose for their life is never, ever your fault. So nobody could see this coming. This was not something that anybody could possibly plan for in the size and scope of what actually took place. It's a ridiculous assumption that anybody could have been actually prepared for this thing the way that it is. And I have a whole lot of reasons behind that I won't go into now. But I also know that not only is that happening on a governmental level, it's happening on a micro level within families themselves. We have to stay very conscious. We don't want something like this to rip our family apart. So you pay attention to what you need first, they're second, and don't feel guilty about what your choice is. But understand that it's very important for you to really maintain your own agency in life.
So this is a question that's semi-related, but I want to bring it up because I think a lot of people are struggling with this. and it's not about parents or friends. It's actually about spouse and direct family. So what are your recommendations to foster our relationship with spouse family during this time? I notice that it is uncomfortable for my spouse and I. We don't want to focus on what's going on, but it seems difficult to talk about anything else.
So that's a really great question. I think that if you sit down so a person sits down with their spouse, so let's put the kids aside for a second. You're the heads of the family. Sit down, go through the procedure that I gave you today about figuring out how you're going to handle this. Get that written down. Get in agreement with each other on it. Get very clear, and then put it away. And it's done. That's set. You know what to do. You know when to do it. Now you can start doing things with the kids, and you could start reconnecting. There's all different kinds of creative things that we can do to be with each other and have conversation outside of the world situation. But I also understand the need for everybody in the family expressing themselves around this. But I would limit that to a certain amount of time. Like say every night at 6:00 and every morning at 9 a.m., we're going to spend 30 minutes or an hour. We're going to talk about fears, anxieties, doubts, worries, whatever. So we can all support each other. And then we're going to focus on something more productive. As the heads of the family, you want to get your kids involved in things that are productive to help them continue to move forward and help them understand that this is just a pause. That's all it is. It's a pause. So that they can all do what they need to do. And here's another thing that is important, because a lot of us we don't spend 24 hours a day with our whole family. It can get a little claustrophobic, and you want to make everybody give them room to have their own private space and respect that space. We don't all need to be in the same room. Kids could be in their bedrooms or the den or whatever, however your house is configured, and everybody gets their own little space so that they can have some me time. I think that's important also. Steph, do you have anything you want to add to that? Because you're dealing with that right now.
Yeah, I'm dealing with that. The big thing for us is disappointment, right? I've got a freshman in college who is now home and she's an art student and can't do art like she could when she was at school. I've got a 16-year-old who just found out prom was canceled and it's her junior prom. So we're doing the best we can to just meet every night as a family, talk about how we're feeling. And then a couple of times we're planning like a game of dominoes for 2 hours just to take our mind off of it. But I'm really trying to give them their space. And the interesting thing that's happening is that, one's going to be 19 and one's 16. They're talking about building forts in the backyard. They're talking about doing really creative things that they were not thinking about before. And we're just trying to support them as much as we can. And for Brandon and I to stay out of fear and be kind of the united front as much as we can too, because they get their sense of security from us. And if we appear shaky and crazy, then that's going to be passed down to them. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Adam Williams, the fort is for fun, not survival. Thanks for the clarifying question. Okay. Really great question from Adam. It was interesting to hear David say, we did not cause this, as it's related to not being able to pay the people we owe due to COVID-19. How do you separate the thought, we did not cause that, which seems factual, from the law of cause and effect, which makes us the cause of all of our effects?
Well, the idea is that you're having it as an experience. So you're the cause of your experience. You're not the cause of what's causing your experience on every level. So we have to remember that our real power is our ability to choose within each individual experience. Now, when it comes to employees and paying your employees, if we want to get right down to the hardcore truth about it, we're paying our employees to do a job. If that job can't be done, then from the agreement of the hire, they don't deserve to be paid. Now, of course, we have compassion, we have empathy for everybody that's going through this. So I know that there's a lot of companies that are continuing to pay their employees because they can. But should they be obligated to? I don't think that they should necessarily be obligated to, because many companies can't. And then if you go into obligation and they can't do it, then you're bringing in shame and guilt, and that's not productive for anybody. So everybody has to do the best that they can. And individually, regardless of your situation and where in that hierarchy a person falls, whether they're a business owner or they're an employee, or the business owner is under the government, whatever it is, we have to accept individual responsibility just for our own space. And then what can we do based on choice and cause and effect within that space. So it is an inaccurate idea that us as every individual caused the virus. That is an improper teaching of religion. It's an improper teaching of metaphysics. It's not accurate. We cause our experience. That's it. And we choose what we do with the experience that we're having. So understand it on that level.
Amazing. Okay, I'm going to take probably 2 more questions if we have time. We really need to wrap this up within the next 15 minutes. I'm noticing, this is from Lisa Marie. I'm noticing that I'm able to stay fairly focused and practical regarding the virus and related fallout. I reached the same conclusions you've explained today over the past week, and I get the house of cards and the idea of a pause. However, I notice that I'm assigning more meaning than usual in an unproductive way to other less primary concerns, and this is causing unnecessary stress on my part. Do you suggest using the gratitude for all unproductive meaning untruths assigned, or is there another approach to use in this instance?
Unless you have an approach that works better for you, I think that you start with gratitude because, like you said, you're assigning meaning. The only reason you're doing that is because we're wired to do that so that we can feel in control of our situation. The problem is that when we assign meaning that's not accurate, we're not in control, and we actually open ourselves up to being manipulated. It was something I wanted to talk about today that I did not get a chance to get into. But when we believe the fear, and I've already talked about all the different ways that people are adding to the fear. When we believe the fear or we assign meaning that is not accurate, you are dangerously open to being manipulated by other people, by the government, by all kinds of sources, directly and indirectly. Indirectly, I think we all understand what directly means, but indirectly is that you don't know how to make conscious choices for yourself. So you're manipulated by the fear itself, or by the worry itself, or by the lie or the rumor itself. And that's a very, very dangerous situation to get into because people will lose. There's people that are going to be scammed right out of every damn dime that they have in their life during this. It's already happening. There's people that are going to make poor decisions based out of fear because they don't understand the truth about things in their own life. So whether it's gratitude or something else, it allows us to give a meaning to it that allows us to see the truth. That's the key. We want to see the truth in the problem so that we can make a conscious choice and evaluate properly.
Perfect. Thank you. And
Yep.
My landscaping company has decided it's now time to blow the leaves out of my backyard. So I apologize for the background noise. This question is from Jennifer. I was in the middle of transitioning from a brick and mortar business to a mobile business. I was weeks away from having it. It's on hold right now. I have 2 weeks to put the down payment on the RV. Should I be continuing with the process of creating my mobile business while there isn't any income at this moment to pay the monthly bill? Should this last more than a month? Or should I continue with my goal or put it on hold?
It's the same answer. It depends on how much money you have and how much your spend is. How long can you go before you're in a dangerous position financially? You also have to look at, do you have another resource that will allow you to bring money in? So all of that stuff has to be taken into consideration when you make the decision. Normally in a normal situation, I would say, don't let fear make the decision. You already made a decision, put your money down, do the things that you're doing, move ahead. In this situation, I tell people the opposite. And the reason is because those control markers have been taken away from us. So we don't actually have the amount or the ability to change as much as we did even a week ago at this point. So that's important to know, because you can't go into magical thinking like, well, if I do this, the universe is going to send me this. The universe can't send you anything if it has no way to get it to you. And I've yet to see anybody that has bags of $100 bills fall out of the sky and land on their front porch. So we have to really logically think about it. It's all cause and effect. How much do you have at your current rate of spend? How long will it last? If you're like, well, I've got 6 months, then you're probably, you're probably really good in that situation. Could it go longer than 6 months? It could. It's probably not likely to, but it could. So, and there'll probably be a million things that would change in between that time too. So, I think that's the way that you need to think about it. Current rate of spend, how long can you go, and then make decisions from there.
Okay, next question. This is from Deborah. Hi, David and Steph. For those of us who had live events planned, what is the earliest date you recommend for rescheduling them with the facts that we have at the moment?
I don't know the facts that you have at the moment.
So I can say,
is she asking the earliest date to tell them to reschedule?
I think so. I think so.
Well, okay, so here's the thing. People are rescheduling things right now. Basically, I see two schools of thought on this in mass. One is people are looking at like June, and then you have people looking into the fall. There's some people that believe that by June this will be fixed. There's some people that are saying, screw June, I'm just wiping it out for the next 6 months, and they're looking at fall for rescheduling things. I think it's definitely situational. I think a week from now we're going to know way more than we know now. I think there's a very good chance that in the United States we're all going to be in shelter in place for 14 days. I think that's probably going to come down federally at some point because nothing's changing. So given that those are probably really good factors, we have to think, well, how long could this possibly go? And when you're talking about changing an event, I don't know if you're using an outside vendor. Is it an online event? Is it an external event? What kind of event is it? But I think you can safely tell them what the dates are when you have the facts to tell them that. I think that would probably be the best thing. And until you have the facts, you could tell them, well, we're looking at June if everything changes, or we're looking at October or August or whatever if everything changes. But I think that as long as you continue communication, I think you're okay, because I think that's what most people want right now. They just want to make communication. So if you set a date for, say, August 5th, and it turns out that August 5th, nothing is going to change, you'll probably find that out way in advance of August 5th, and you could write in your communication, providing that everything is returning basically to normal, our event will be August 5th. I think that's the way to handle it. You're on mute, Steph. You're on mute.
Sorry. Okay, one last question. This is about team. Many of the people on this call have a team, so I'm getting lots of team questions, like how to help my team, how to help my team keep in the right headspace. This one's from Nozomi. Hi, David and Steph. Thank you for doing this Q&A. My question is, I can feel a member of my team is being edgy. I can feel the shift in his attitude, and I think it's coming from fear. What would be the best way to approach him, and what can I say to him?
I would talk to him about his behavior, and I would ask him what I would say I would talk to him about it in a compassionate way. Remember empathy, right? Like, let's really pay attention to what people are personally going through here, and not automatically expect them to be 100% in control of their behavior, even though they're responsible for it, right? This is something nobody's ever seen before, or experienced. So I would say, hey, listen, I really sense that something's going on, and I wanted to sit down and talk to you about it and see if there's something I could do to help. And would you just please talk to me about what you're experiencing right now, and then be quiet and let that person tell you whatever it is that they need to tell you, so that they feel seen, validated, and heard. And then you can have a conversation with that person beyond that, and see what kind of resolution you can come up with. Hey everyone, I hope you found this really useful. Please check back tomorrow for part 2 of how to navigate uncertainty during a major crisis.